What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. This is TWA Motorsports, and today we are right back on the red truck. We're gonna pull the motor out. I've just decided I'm gonna yank the motor out of this thing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Now, whether I go with the 5.3, just keeping the one that's in it back in, I don't know yet, or we go with the 6-liter. I'm leaning more towards the 5.3, and here's the reason why. Okay, that has a 5.3 we want to do a turbo on. This has a 5.3 we'll have maybe a possible different plan for. And so I think I want to keep the 5.3, but either way I'm going to pull it out because that's going to make my life easier. I'm going to see if I can take just the whole block to somebody and see if we can get those head studs out without having to pull the heads off and me not having to spend a ton of money. But obviously we're going to spend a little more time, but I'm also going to, I got a helper out here today. He's running the jack. So we're gonna get the trans out. Since I've got this new trans jack that makes life a lot easier on me, we're gonna go ahead and get the transmission out. So I left off where we weren't able to get the harmonic balancer out because my impact was not strong enough. So we're gonna get that off as well today. And I'm really hoping, guys, to yank the motor. So that's the goal. I'm gonna take you along with me as we go through, yank the trans out, and then eventually the motor. So let's get under this thing and get started on the starter. So in order to get the starter out, there's two 13s here, one on each side. So we're gonna see if my small impact, I didn't think it'd do it. So I'll loosen those up by hand, and just 13 millimeters. We'll loosen them up by hand, and then we'll take them the rest of the way out with the small impact. So we've got 13. Holy cow, those are tight. Can you guys see that trans fluid coming out? Isn't that crazy? Holy cow, those are tight. Now we'll switch over to the small impact and get these things out of here. Once we get the starter out, then we should have a couple connections on it. Should have a 13 on the top. Okay, we got a 13 here, and then our trigger wire should be an 8 millimeter that you see right here. So 13 and 8 to get those guys off. I'm gonna have transmission fluid all over me. And you guys know how I am. I might show you the process since I never do. Cleaning some of this stuff before we go back together. All right, I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna go grab an 8 to get this trigger wire off. I just didn't want to leave this thing hanging by the 8 since it's the weakest one. I'm literally getting soaked in trans fluid right now. Because remember, we pulled the dipstick out in the last video because it was zip tied and had the absolute crap beat out of it. And so when we pulled it out, it was all bent up and the gasket came with it. That's part of the reason. Let's get this trigger wire off. And back to the 13. And then I'll screw these back on so that you don't lose them. So we got that out of the way. And the starter bolt. Like I said, screw these back on so you don't lose them. And then we'll clean this thing up at some point. But now, we have access to the converter bolts. We actually probably had pretty good access because this doesn't have the closeout panel on it. Let's go ahead and see what the converter bolts look like. So let's look here. You can see one of the converter bolts right there. Now what we need to do is we need to get a 24 up here on the crank, and we need to spin that thing around until we have access to that bolt. And it looks like it's a 17, and we should have access from down here. Normally you have to go way up in the front to get the angle you need, but I think we have enough room here to sneak on it. I'm not gonna be able to show you guys this because the camera's gonna be in the way of where I'll be working, but we're gonna spin it around and get all three of those out.
So now that we have the converter bolts out, wish I could have showed you guys more of that. We're gonna pull these little plastic keepers back. We're gonna see if we can get our pick in here and get these little guys out. Hopefully I'm not blocking the view too much. So now I have this guy in place, and I can adjust this one. All right, so let's let it down a little. Got the, you can see the mess, it's just dripping like crazy. Oh, who'd have thought? Oh well. I guess I was gonna drain it. This wasn't the method I was gonna use though. So either way, it's coming down. We're making a huge mess. Luckily I got a piece of cardboard under it. But now that we've got it down, we can hopefully get over there and get to those clips a little bit easier. It looked like they were on the top side, which sucks. This is like getting all over my transmission jack. It's making me crazy. So let's go up there and try to get those clips out. I hate standing in transmission fluid. I hate standing in any fluid, but trans fluid's like my least favorite. Man, these things are in there. I got one. This is what it looks like. Let's see if we can get the other one out. So we can make an even bigger mess. I think this thing was over full. All right, got the second one. These are a little harder than a 4L60 one. I don't know why. And I didn't lose them. So now we should be able to pull these trans lines out and make even more of a leak. All right. Now we can access the bolts, which I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show you guys that either, but they should be 15 or 13. You're gonna need a swivel. I am gonna hook up my safety chain just in case, and we're really ready to pull those out. So guys, there was actually only 4 bolts holding it in, which, 1, 2, yeah, 4. So I wouldn't consider that enough. We're gonna see if we can get it down now. I'm hoping we can get it down here. I'm afraid that it's a little heavy on the converter side. I may not have it. We may be okay. We are making a huge mess, however. But yeah, anyway, 4 bolts. So we're gonna see if we can get it the rest of the way out. It's hanging on something. See if I can push it a little bit. There we go. That's better. So nothing else is hooked up. We should be able to come on down with it. I'm just gonna release this instead. Golly, this trans jack is awesome. Love it.
Okay guys, well the trans is out. We have a massive mess here. So I may do some cleaning off camera here to get this nightmare of a mess out of the way. And then we'll take a look at what our next step is. I may go ahead and take the tail shaft off of this, I don't know. I've got such a mess, that's all I can think about. Now that we got the trans out of the way, I've got my little flywheel locking tool here. And so this is so nice to have. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in place because we need to get that harmonic balancer loose. So how this thing works is, you can see it just locks the flywheel so it doesn't spin. And then we can try to turn that 24 on the front of the crankshaft. I've used this tool so many times, guys, and what's cool is it fits trucks, cars, basically every LS engine it fits. And I'm just gonna leave this thing in place. And honestly, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull, because it's easier than trying to snake the harness off of the engine, the way the harness is structured, I think I'm gonna pull the whole harness off with the motor, is what I'm gonna do. And I think I'm bleeding because I hit my head on the bottom of this car. All right, so we got this thing locked in. Let's see if I can get a 24 millimeter on the crank up here and get it loose with the big, huge breaker bar. So I've got the 24 up here on the crank, got my my breaker bar. And so now we're gonna attempt to loosen this up. I don't know if that's what I was afraid of. I don't have a gob of hold here. No way. We got it. Look how long my breaker bar was. So we got it loose though. So now I'll show you guys up there. We can go ahead and take the harmonic balancer bolt out. That took way less, guys, than what I thought it was going to. Got the bolt out. So now that we got that bolt out of the center, I've got my puller here, and this is actually a Chrysler one, at least is what it's labeled as, and it works the best on an LS. So what we do is, got a little pin here in the middle, and that slides down and it pulls the crank off. So we need to hook this on, you know, the ridges here in the crank. And sorry guys, the lighting sucks. Let's see if I can get a better light. So you can see the little ridges on the crank here. We need to get that hooked on there, and then we need to tighten this thing up, start to pull that harmonic balancer out of place. Now, I don't have anywhere to clamp you guys to show you the process, but the next thing you're gonna see is this thing hopefully on the ground. So I think we got it. Pulled it out of there. Our pin stayed in the middle. Okay guys, I think at this point, I don't know, we'll look around the bottom and see if we've got any more stuff that we want to pull out, but we may be close to dropping it back down and working at the top. So I think what we'll do is we're gonna go ahead and grab all this harness. You can see there's a piece of the harness up here. We're gonna get it unhooked from that fuel line. I'm going to get it unhooked from right here on the fuel line. And then other than that, the only harness that's down here is the one that goes, you can see it right there. It just pulls straight off. We're gonna pull that off and get it kind of pushed up to the top of the truck. Other than that, that's all the pieces of harness that you're gonna need to unhook down here. So I'm gonna go ahead and unhook all that, and then we're gonna set this thing down and start taking some stuff off up top. So now that we're up top, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take this bracket off, I believe. So I'm gonna just unhook a couple wires here, just the throttle body, just to give me a little more slack here. But I believe this is a, it looks like a 10.
We'll get it unhooked. I'm gonna get this battery pack unhooked, and then we'll get these two 15s out that hold the alternator on. That's tightening. Let's get this 10 millimeter loose. Holds this to the alternator. And then I thought I was filming, but I unhooked, obviously we got it back on the ground, but I unhooked the alternator. There's just one plug here that you can unplug. And then I unhooked the throttle body just to give me a little more room with wiring here. So once I get that finished, I'm gonna grab a 15, we'll get the alternator out of place. Generally you need a pry bar as well because a lot of times this thing sticks. You know what? I'm not really sure why I'm doing this the hard way. I should be using my impact, huh? Probably so. And the only reason I'm taking this bracket off, it gives me more room to pull this thing forward once I get it off the motor mounts. Just gives me another probably 6 inches. That's how far this bracket sticks out. Yeah, we're gonna need a pry bar to pry. Now we got a pry bar. Maybe we can get this thing out of here. That thing is in there. I think we got it though. Well, I thought we had it. We're close. There we go. So guys, I'm just setting this. Normally I'd tag and bag all this, but because I'm literally wanting to pull this thing out and go right back together with it, I'm just kind of setting stuff together like this, kind of off to the side back there in the back. But now that we got that, let's see if we can tackle, I might pull some of that harness off. I'm definitely gonna pull the intake off because that's how I want to hook onto it, but let's go grab some 10 millimeters and get some stuff unhooked up top here. Let's start with the cruise control here, swinging it out, get the throttle cable off, and then I believe this guy generally just pops off. Looks like it has a small clip on it. I'm gonna have to get a pick. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a pick to get that one out. I don't want to break it. We can get this out of here. It's just a small little clip. Want to fight me. I've never had this problem before, guys. It's always just popped right off here. There we go. Okay, so I didn't even take the clip out. The clip stayed in. And it doesn't seem broken. Now that we got the cable unhooked, let's see if we can get this out. Generally, a pair of pliers will do it. Maybe. There we go. Sometimes you can just press on them and get them out. Generally what I do, but that cruise control one didn't want to work that way. All right, now we got this unhooked. Let's grab, I'm not going to be able to get anything but a small ratchet in here. Let's get this plate off. There's 3 10s there on the top. Go grab a small 10. Really didn't even need to unhook that clip. but it looks like it's been unhooked before. You can see what I'm talking about reaching. This is a pretty substantial reach for me, with it being on the lift. This is why I didn't want to try to clean head gasket material off, leaning over the side of this. Great. Drop that one. Once we get that off, we'll fold it over to the side, hopefully. We'll just take this clip out. Actually, maybe not. Yeah, I think this will be okay. Just fold it over the side. I'm going to go ahead and unplug the brake booster here. Set it up top. See if we can get some of this wire unhooked. There's another 10 right here. And just to keep things straight, guys, generally what I do, so we'll take this off, as you can see, but I'm gonna put this right back on, this nut here. Same thing with those 10s that I pulled out here. Just screw them back on. I'll have to grab that other one. I heard it hit the ground. While we're up here, let's go ahead and unplug the EGR. Generally, you can push this and then pull straight up and it comes out like that. Those guys are unhooked. Unhook the knock sensors. They're clipped right here, even though they go to the back. And then the map sensor back there in the very back. I don't know how I'm gonna reach it. There we go. So we got that unplugged. And then I may, honestly guys, I may try to snake this harness. Let's unplug these guys. Generally you lift up and then pinch. Unplug the injectors. Don't lose these little orange deals that are stuck in there. They're meant to keep water out. They're supposed to be in that side. You can see that. This one's in the injector. So we'll go through and get all those out. And then I think the majority of the rest of it goes along the bottom. So we can yank this off the firewall. And that goes down to that piece we unhooked earlier. And then one right here to the mass airflow sensor. Let's try to snake all this harness over more to the middle. So to get the intake loose, obviously we need to unhook a few more things, but I'm gonna unhook, I need a different pair of pliers. Have you ever just not wanted to walk over to your toolbox and get the right pliers? So we need to get that loose. We need to get the fuel lines loose, which will require a special tool. I'll show you guys. And then we just need to tackle the 8mm bolts holding it in place. A lot of times I'll take the injectors out separately. I think I'm gonna try to just do it all at once here. If I can get this to kind of, you know, be out of the way while I do it. We do need to disconnect this line. Actually, no, we don't, because we'll leave it there. All right, I think we've got all the wiring disconnected that we need. So we just need to get the fuel lines and then worry about the intake bolts. So to unhook your fuel lines, we need to first get this off. This is just like a keeper. I don't really know that it does anything,
But then you got this special tool that slides in, and I'm hoping, guys, I can do this with one hand. Generally, you can. You can see a bunch of fuel came out. Not a bunch, but some. It's gonna happen. Some people like to bleed it off. I never have been one to do that. So once we get that one, let's get this bottom one. And then we'll go grab the 8mm and get the intake off. Should have 10 8mm bolts, just random places throughout the intake here. So you can see one down there, here, here, here. You may have to use something different in the back, something a little shorter but long enough to get your hand in there. All right, let's see if we can get some of these out of here. I think a couple of them will need an extension on. This one for sure, I can't get past the fuel rail here. But we may get lucky on the rest of them. Let's go get an extension and get that one out. We'll have all this side loose. Well, I think we got everything unhooked, so let's see if we can drag it out of here. This harness right here, guys, just such a pain. What do we got hooked up here? Oh, our evap. Fine. We should be able to snake it through as we're coming out. And then we've got this guy. What a mess. Got some fuel spilling. All right. Out of the way. Holy crap, that's nasty. So what I'll probably do is go grab my vacuum and vacuum this out. Golly, it's bad. Yeah, definitely gonna vacuum that. Pretty rough looking, guys. Lots of carbon buildup. So anyway, I'll vacuum this out and then we'll keep moving on. I'm not sure if I want to go to the AC next. I've got a buddy that's supposed to come over and drain it, so we're not just, because it did work. You know, if he comes over and drains it, we'll probably take the AC off next. And then hopefully the power steering bracket, I'd like to drain that out a little bit, like with my suction cup. But yeah, let's do some off-camera vacuuming of this intake. Now that we did a once over with the vacuum on top of the heads here, I've got a bottle here, and then I'm going to suck all the extra power steering fluid out. And the main reason why, guys, is I mean, it's gonna be a mess, don't get me wrong, but I don't want a bigger mess than, you know, I have to deal with. So we're going to just get as much out as we can with this little turkey baster, and we should be able to get a majority of it. Still making a mess. So just wait till I unhook these lines down here. That'll be the next thing I do, is unhook the lines, and then we should be able to get this thing off and out of the way. We'll have a series of 15s. We need to get the 10s off that hold the power, this power block here to it. And then obviously we need to, like I said, undo the lines, but we'll get to that. I'm gonna go ahead, finish this up, get this thing out of the way, and then we'll go grab some tools to undo everything. We're gonna use a 10 to take this off. And then just like all the other stuff, I'm just gonna thread them back in. And then I know that the low side of the power steering is just a clamp, but the high side, I believe, is an 18. But I'll confirm that here in a minute. So guys, actually what's fitting the best is 3/4 on the back side there, and then 5/8, you can see how tight, snug that is. 5/8 on the front, the actual piece that we're pulling out. So I'm using the 3/4 to hold it, and then we're gonna go ahead and thread the 5/8 out. And then the one right behind it is just a clamp, so we'll unclamp it, pull it apart, and holy cow, will we have a mess then. Now that we got that unhooked, there's just a series of 15s here. Got the one on the very bottom. And this guy. I think there's 4. And one of these is shorter, I believe. I think it's this one. Well, there's 4 right there, and it doesn't seem to be loose. Must be one more. There's one hiding somewhere. So it's actually over here on the side. There's a bracket that comes up from the back. So it's a 15 either way. You could take the bracket off that bolts to the block, or there's a bracket that bolts to the back of the power steering pump. But I'm gonna go ahead and get it off, and then we'll get this thing out of the way. I knew there was a shorter one. You see what I'm talking about here, guys. Try to let that drain out, but this little guy right there. See if we can set this somewhere where it doesn't drip as much. So to make things a little more accessible, I'm gonna go ahead and unhook the coolant overflow here. Just a clamp. I'm sure this hose has been on there since 2001. So this guy, and then there's another clamp up top for the heater core here. And it looks like one's been replaced, which is good. The one closest to the inside is a like a worm clamp. So we got all that unhooked. Let's pull it out of here. And we'll set this to the side as well. And then we can move on to the AC connection. So 13 millimeter up on the firewall, 15 for the line that runs into the compressor, and then I believe a 10 or a 13 up top here. So we'll probably start with the firewall 13 and work our way down. So the first 13, this guy right here. And as I said, I had a buddy come over. He's not much of a camera guy, and he bled off the system. He's got an evac machine that he can take it out, put it back in. So once we get that off, we'll thread this back in so we don't lose it. And I'll probably put something in there to keep junk out of it. The next one, guys, we have is up here. It's a 13 also. This line is kind of a hard line that comes out of this. So we'll pull it off, and we're gonna have to kind of snake it around. But what we'll do, I'm gonna put this back on too. We'll get this 15 loose on the other end of these lines. It goes directly onto the compressor. Dropping my 15 everywhere. Get it off here. And we should be able to snake these out of here. Once we do that, we'll have access to the actual compressor itself. You can see what I'm talking about. 15. Now I will tell you, it's kind of a trick getting this out. There is a line plugged in up here. I'll show you in just a second. You can see the plug I had to unplug right there. So this thing's out of the way. We'll set it aside as well. Let's take a look at what we need to undo now. So there's a series of 15s. Okay, there's 15s on the top and the bottom that hold just the compressor in place. So we'll yank it out. Obviously we need to unplug it right here. I'll grab a flathead and do that. I'm not gonna be able to show you guys this because of where it's at, but I'm gonna unbolt the compressor from the actual housing or the bracket, and then we'll pull the bracket off last. Yeah, I think that's the way I wanna go about doing it. Almost got the last one out here. The one short one goes in the back, the top. There's another plug on the back of it too, guys. Gonna unplug. And we got it. So I'm just gonna set these guys back in here. Like I said, that little short one goes in the back, and we'll set it to the side. Now I got the 3 bolts that hold the bracket on. So you got one here, you've got one back in the back, and one in the middle. And then you can see that the 4 that we just took out before, that's where they go. We're just about free and clear. So what we need to do now is, obviously we need to take the motor mounts out, which I'm gonna lift back up to do that. I'm gonna take the whole piece out as one unit, and you guys will see once I'm down there what I'm talking about. There's 2 18s that kind of go through there. I believe they're 18s, but in order to take it out with the harness on it, you got a couple different options. You can take it out without the harness, which means you got to go through and unhook all the pieces of the harness, which a majority of it is finished, but I'm gonna just throw the harness on top of it. So we're gonna get in this box here, take some stuff apart, which I'll show you guys, but there's one thing I won't be able to show you, and that's a ground right there. You can see it's wrapped in like aluminum tape. That we need to take off the side of the block. If you don't do that, you're gonna have to take the front bumper apart, or at least the grill out, because one of your grounds that tees off here goes underneath and down to the bumper. And I had that struggle with my green truck when I did it, but I'm gonna take the ground off the block so we don't have to do that. And then I'll set you guys up here on the tripod so you can see what we're taking apart in the actual, I guess, electrical center is what it says on the top. Oh, the Speed Society Electrical Center. Now that we have that ground unhooked, let's see if we can get this box loose. You should be able to pull on the bottom. There's little tabs that hold it. I need to kind of pull it up out of the way. This is such a joke. This is the electric fan, guys. So, I'm not really sure. I don't know. Anyway. Oh man, we're gonna have to pull this. We're gonna have to pull this guy off, which that's not a big deal. I think those are 10s. Maybe they're 13s. We'll pull those off real quick because we can't get this out of the way without those off. All right, let's get these off. I don't know that I've had a truck in years that's had this on still. Once we get that off, then we should be able to bring this all the way up. Yeah. Now that we have that off, I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the power. 7mm right here. And this is the power that goes from the battery to the fuse block here. So your battery splits off also, but we're gonna need all this to go with the engine.
At least that's the plan. That should stay in there. We're gonna hope. So we'll throw that over to the side. Now, this is all kind of a mess of wires right here. So what you're gonna do is, we need to lift this box up because we need to unplug the harness that you see right here. But I can't move it yet because there's a couple tabs holding it in place. So I'm gonna get my flathead screwdriver and pop the tabs loose. We're also gonna have to take the computer, which is fine. It's got clips on it, just like we had on that box, in order to snap it off. So I'm gonna get it out of the way, maybe. We'll get it off of here and get those tabs loosened. So I got the tabs loose, and you can see I went ahead and unhooked the computer. Just two 7mm here in the center. Get it unhooked, and you can see they broke the plastic piece when they pinned for the 4L80. Decent wire going into the pin set. Just speaker wire coming out. So now we need to take this thing out. Should just have clips in it. You can pull this thing up and see how many mice have lived in here. And we're gonna need to unhook a couple things. First of all, there's plugs stuck to the bottom we're gonna unhook. You can see just unhook the blue one here. Then there's a gray one. Unhook. And then the main one that's the kicker here. Oh, here's another one. It's actually not even hooked up. I don't know what that confused me on my green truck. This guy here didn't hook to anything. But the last one, actually it looks like we need to take two out here. We're gonna take our 7mm and we're gonna take this big one out of the center. And then we're gonna take this guy right here. Actually, that's just a plug-in. So we'll get this one, and the center one unplugged. And like I said, you're using a 7mm. They shouldn't be too terribly bad to get out. It should kind of push out as you're unscrewing it. Looks like it is. Just make sure you're going loose and not tight. Okay, we got that one out. Now we need to get, actually, that's it. I lied to you guys, we only need that one out. So let's just set this back in here. And we're ready to get a couple other things loose. I think the next thing I want to do, and I'm gonna have to crawl up on the car to do it, is this evap line. I need to unhook that from the fuel lines just because it's going to cause us some problems, I think. I don't think I can get it folded over out of the way far enough. Aside from that, we've got everything unhooked. We just need to, I think, get under it at this point and knock those pieces loose. I don't know, we may do it differently on this side because I have really good access. There's 5 bolts that hold the motor in. There's 2 that go into a bracket, but then there's 15s, there's 3 15s that come in from the top. And I have really good access to the 15s here, but I don't have as much here. I don't know, we may just take the 15s out so I don't have to lift it back up and get under it. But either way, I'm gonna get this guy loose, which is the same thing, you just push and lift it straight off. And other than that, guys, we're ready. A couple things I want to show you. We need to get this ground off right here. You see this ground? We need to get that off. I'm gonna go ahead and take it off here too, because we're gonna have to take the hood off. I don't think I'm gonna have enough room. So I'll take it off there, get the hood unplugged. Actually, I may leave it there. Unhook this one for sure, but I think I'll just unplug the hood light and then unhook it from this 10mm here to get that out of the way. We will have to take the hood off, like I said, but I wanna show you guys what I'm talking about with these bolts. You can see there's one here, one in the middle, and then one on the other side. So there's 3, and that actually clamps it down to this bracket. So we could, I'm thinking here, we may be able to take it off like that. I don't know. I feel like that's the way I did it in my truck, but we'll just have to look. I'll let you guys know which way I decide to do it. Well, I've decided after getting that ground off, I'm gonna go ahead and try to tackle those 15s because I have access to them. I didn't think I could reach them. I thought the steering shaft would be in the way. So that's the method I'm gonna take. I'm gonna get those 3 15s out here, the 3 on the other side. And then guys, I need to hook my chain up. Normally I would use my LS plate, but as dirty as this engine is, I don't wanna drop any more in it than it already has. So I'm gonna bolt it to the front of the head with a couple extra 15s here. So we're gonna go here and here. And then there is a hook still on the back of the engine. You can see it back there in the very right corner. And that's actually for pulling these out. So I'm gonna hook around it, get this bolted up, and get these bolts out, and we'll be ready to pull. Okay guys, well I've got the 3 bolts out. Actually the motor is off of the plates right now. And had to lift my lift up a little bit and get the jack in place, got the chain in place. I don't have anybody here to help me with the hood right now. So what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift it as much as I can and see if we can't get it out without taking the hood off. But I'm pretty sure that the hood's gonna have to come off if I remember right. I don't think there's enough room. Maybe because we took all the front drive assembly off, there might be. But we're gonna just keep lifting it up and see what happens. Oh. So since I don't have any help, I'm thinking what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unhook the hinge here. I'm gonna see if we can unhook this. I think it's a 13
get that bolt out, and then we'll put like a stick or a prop rod of some sort. I think I've got a stick long enough. We can jam in here and push up against the hood to like swing it back. It's not gonna hit anything for quite a while, so I think that might work. I think the first thing we'll actually hit will be the antenna. I don't need, I'm not really sure how much I need, to be honest with you. We'll just see though. I'm hoping that my jack goes high enough, because we are on the lift, to get it out. That could be the next problem. So that seemed to work, I hope. So now we just need to see if my jack will go up high enough to get it out. I'm worried about that now. We need to check and make sure we're not hooked on anything. We are hooked on a couple things here. Let's see if we can get that. Just a wire. It's gonna be close, guys. Like I said, I'm more concerned about it getting high enough. I'm pretty sure we're about to the end here. We're clear. Let's roll it out. Well, guys, it is out, and I couldn't be more happy to have it out. I mean, yes and no. That worked pretty good with the stick and undoing those. As you guys saw, I was able to get the hood way up. I think somebody actually said something about that when I was doing my green truck instead of taking the hood off. I can tell you for sure that I'll be doing that going forward, because it's way easier than trying to align a hood with me and my wife and my son. It's just way easier on me. But either way, the thing is out, and all because of this right here. We've got one on each side. Now look, it is way easier to work on outside the truck, do not get me wrong, but at this point, I'm gonna see if I can load it up in my truck, take it to my local machine shop, just because my buddy Mike lives about an hour away. If I end up taking it to my buddy Mike, I will film it and you guys can see it. If I take it to the machine shop and he can do it, then I probably won't film that, just because I don't know how he feels about that. I don't really think he's a on-camera guy, but it's out. And once we get that fixed, we can start going back together. I'm gonna clean under the hood. I'll show you guys when I do that. I don't know if I'll tie that in with putting it back in or working on the engine, I don't know, but you will see all the progress as we go, that is for sure. But we are effectively done for this video, guys. I am soaked in sweat from head to toe. My hat is soaked, my shirt, I've got dirt all over my face, as you can see. I could see it in the camera here, and maybe even blood. I don't know, I may have hit my head or something. But either way, we're finished for this video. If you guys are liking this content, please, like always, go down there and smash that thumbs up button, guys. If you are not subscribed, you gotta get subscribed so you can see this thing go back together. And stay tuned to see what we work on next.